Seiffert here to speak to us about Charles Sumner and the caning of Charles Sumner, and I think that'll be a real interesting talk because I know I don't know a whole lot about that. I've read a little bit about it, bits and pieces here and there in my Civil War readings, but I don't know a lot about it. So I know it'll be an interesting talk. He's spoken to us before and been very good. We're very fortunate he came up from Richmond, my old alma mater down there, and as I say, I knew his dad. His dad was the dean of men. We had a lot of talks my freshman year. Yeah, I visited his dad several times. Great guy, his dad. He was very understanding. He was a psychologist, so you know you couldn't fool him. But anyway, before we start, a couple things. I want to put in a plug again for the Campbell County Historical Society, which meets the second Thursday of the month. I think next month they meet at the Wilder Civic Building. I don't know what the topic is this next month, but they meet there. And the other thing is Friends of the Library here is a very good group. If you're ever interested in joining that, that's a real nice group. And the Ramage Museum has a book club that meets once a month. They meet this Saturday, I think at 2 o'clock, and the topic is Confederate Nation. The book.
This book.
Yeah. And I'm hoping that I can get to that. I don't know if I'm going to make it or not. If I can, I will. But it's always an interesting discussion group. And I would put in a plug for the Cincinnati Roundtable also. That's also a very good group, although I don't belong to them anymore. This year I didn't join. But it is a real good group, and they do have some real good speakers also. And they meet the third Thursday of the month. Now they're different than us. There you got, if you join, it's $25 a month for dues, $20 for the meal and whatever, but that's a good group too. But anyway, without further ado, let me turn it over to Mr. Phil Seiffert here. I've talked enough.
Are in for a treat because you are going to have probably the most preeminent Civil War historian, noted theologian, and probably one of the best looking men living today. Now he's going to be here in a few minutes. Come on, come on, come on, come on. Oh, I appreciate Mr. Hoffman giving me a call and coming up, and it's only the second time I've given this talk, and the first time I got to the second page and they were holding up 5 minutes. So we're going to see what happens today. This is actually going to be a kind of a 2-part talk. A little bit, kind of a little bit of a let's make a deal. We're going to do this part, and then I brought up a little something that we were able to acquire here at the Battle of Richmond this year. Some of you all may know about it, some of you may not, but if you can't get the right answers, I'm not going to show it to you. So, is everybody old and tall enough to ride this ride? Because the roller coaster is about to begin. Everybody get one of these? Okay.
Yes.
I have no program, so. Ready? Dr. Ramage, are you ready?
Ready.
I was telling Mr. Hoffman, everybody knows who Ed Bars is. He showed up at my door one day with a busload, going to do a tour of the Battle of Richmond. He said, I want you to ride along with me. It's okay, yes sir. Got in there and said, I just think you ought to do this. So this is a little bit of a tough one with anybody ever hear of the Johnstown flood?
Yeah.
Pennsylvania?
Yeah.
Well, there was a fellow who lived through the Johnstown flood, and all he wanted to do the rest of his life was tell everybody about the Johnstown flood. Well, he dies and he goes to heaven, and he's talking with St. Peter, and St. Peter says, well, now you really can do about anything you want to here. And you can see anybody you want to. Is there anything you want to do? Everybody wants to? He goes, I'd like to tell everybody about the Johnstown flood. And St. Peter said, well, that's fine, but remember, Noah is in the audience. So to me tonight, this is kind of Noah is in the audience. All right, ready? In the years leading up to the American Civil War, there were hundreds, if not thousands, of acts of violence related to the politics of slavery and states' rights. These acts could range from just minor vandalism to outright murder. And this violence even reached the sacred halls of the United States Capitol in Washington, D.C. For in 1856, a United States House of Representatives member from South Carolina beat and nearly killed a United States Senator from Massachusetts in the U.S. Senate chamber. Now, it's not the current chamber. If you go to the Capitol, it would be the previous one. So, that's still there. This event became known as the caning of Charles Sumner. But before we get to that event itself and its ramifications, we must get to know the participants to understand their motives. Now, the victim, United States Senator from Massachusetts, Charles Sumner. Charles Sumner is born on January the 6th, 1811 on Irving Street in Boston, Massachusetts. He is the son of Charles Pinckney and Relief Jacob Sumner. The elder Charles was a liberal, Harvard-educated attorney, abolitionist, and early proponent of desegregated schools. In addition to being a lawyer, the elder Charles was clerk of the Massachusetts House of Representatives for 2 terms and served as sheriff of Suffolk County, Massachusetts. His law practice wasn't the most successful, and his family bordered on the edge of middle to lower class. Relief Jacob Sumner was a seamstress before their marriage. The elder Charles was not very popular due to his radical views for the time on slavery and the Negro's place in society. Now, the younger Charles attended Boston Latin School and was an 1830 graduate of Harvard and an 1834 graduate of the Harvard Law School. He opened a law practice in Boston as well as lectured at the Harvard Law School. In 1837, he took an extensive 3-year trip to Europe, where Sumner informally studied medicine and became fluent in French, Spanish, German, and Italian. This trip also reinforced Sumner's views as an abolitionist. He returned to the United States in 1840 and resumed his law practice and law school lecturing. He also became, during this time, a much regarded and sought after orator. His friend Henry Wadsworth Longfellow said that Sumner gave speeches, quote, like a cannoneer ramming down cartridges. He also became a strong supporter of public education for both whites and blacks, fought for prison reform, and opposed the Mexican War. He declined the Whig Party's nomination to the United States House in 1848 and helped organize the Free Soil Party, but lost in the election for the U.S. House. He was elected to the United States Senate in 1851. His views were very, very different from his predecessor, Daniel Webster. Although not very vocal early in his Senate career, he became a vocal opponent to slavery, which made him few friends, and actively fought for the repeal of the Compromise of 1850 and his Fugitive Slave Act, citing that the Compromise was a violation of the United States Constitution, an affront to the public conscience, and an offense against divine law. In 1856, he denounced the Kansas-Nebraska Act and spoke at length on the floor of the Senate during the Bleeding Kansas crisis, denouncing slave power, the political arm of the slave owners. He attacked the authors of the Kansas-Nebraska Act, Stephen Douglas of Illinois and Andrew Butler of South Carolina. His vocal attacks on Butler were especially venomous, using sexual references in regards to the slave owners and their female slaves. Stephen Douglas said during this time, in reference to Sumner, this damn fool Sumner is going to get him shot by another damn fool. But now let's look at the attacker. United States Representative from South Carolina, Preston Brooks. Preston Smith Brooks was born in Edgefield County, South Carolina, August the 5th, 1819. The son of Whitfield and Mary Parsons Carroll Brooks. He attended South Carolina College, the predecessor to the University of South Carolina, but was expelled just before graduation for threatening the local police with firearms. In 1840, he fought a duel with future Texas Senator and Confederate General Louis Wigfall and was shot in the hip. This injury caused Brooks to walk with a limp and use a cane for the rest of his life. Now we see the connection here. He was elected to the bar and served as a colonel in the Mexican-American War. Brooks was elected to the South Carolina House and then to the United States House of Representatives in 1853 as a Democrat. He strongly supported Kansas being admitted to the Union as a slave state. Now we have the stage set and the antagonist described. Now, Charles Sumner's speeches in May of 1856 infuriated Southerners and many Northerners alike. He was very insulting for the time of South Carolina Senator Andrew Butler, who just happened to be Preston Brooks's second cousin. So you see how this relationship comes in here? Sumner even mocked Butler's speaking style, which was hampered by a recent stroke. Brooks was so incensed at Sumner for both his attacks on slavery as well as his family, he intended to challenge Sumner to a duel, even consulting fellow Carolinian Lawrence Keitt on dueling etiquette. Keitt said that dueling was for gentlemen of equal social class, and Sumner was no better than a drunkard. So Brooks made other plans to deal with Sumner. In the afternoon of May the 22nd, 1856, Brooks, Keitt, and another congressman, Henry Edmondson, entered the Senate chamber and waited for the galleries to clear. Brooks was very concerned that no ladies be present. See, this goes back to this old Southern way of doing things. As Sumner sat at his desk in virtually an empty chamber, Brooks came up to Sumner and said in a low voice, "Mr. Sumner, I have read your speech over twice carefully. It is libel on South Carolina and Mr. Butler, who is a relative of mine." As Sumner went to stand, Brooks hit Sumner on the head with his golden-headed cane. Sumner being hit with such force that he lost his eyesight. The blows caused Sumner to fall to the ground and become lodged between the floor and his desk, which was bolted to the floor. Brooks continued to strike Sumner, but the severely bloodied Sumner was able to get to his feet, tearing the desk from the floor as he did. Sumner staggered and tried to defend himself the best he could. Brooks continued to club Sumner and didn't stop even when his cane snapped, thrashing Sumner with the golden head. Sumner lost consciousness and fell to the floor, and Brooks grabbed him by the lapel and continued his attack. Those attempting to stop the attack were blocked by Edmondson and Keitt, the latter armed with his own cane and pistol and bellowing, "Leave him alone and let them be," as well as other expletives not mentioned here. I wouldn't want to embarrass Mr. Hoffman. Kentucky Senator John J. Crittenden tried to intercede, as well as Georgia Senator Robert Toombs. Now, if you know anything about Robert Toombs, he's no small potatoes there. He's a big man. Fellow Congressman Ambrose S. Murray and Senator Edwin D. Morgan, both of New York, with the aid of Senate Sergeant of Arms Dunning McNair and Page, were finally able to pull Brooks off of Sumner. Sumner then came to and was taken to a cloakroom for medical attention, and then removed from the Capitol to his residence. Now, Preston Brooks is also injured during the melee, having hit himself above the eye with one of his backswings, and Brooks is arrested. This attack polarized America. Sumner was called a martyr in the North, while Brooks was a hero to the South. Newspapers in both the North and South championed their respective personalities, justifying their actions to fit their leanings. Ralph Waldo Emerson, writing 2 weeks after the attack, said, "I do not see how a barbarous community and a civilized community can constitute one state. I think either we must get rid of slavery or we must get rid of freedom." That was kind of romantic, wasn't it? People don't write like that anymore. Brooks was lauded in the Southern press, and supporters sent him hundreds of canes. One even inscribed, "Hit him again." But many fellow members of Congress chided Brooks for his actions, and fellow Representative Anson Burlingame of Massachusetts goaded Brooks until Brooks finally challenged Burlingame to a duel, which never took place. Brooks also challenged Massachusetts Senator Henry Wilson to a duel, again, which never took place. Brooks said that he never intended to kill Sumner, for if he had, he would have chosen a different weapon, and stated that he never meant to disrespect the U.S. House or the Senate. That's kind of convenient. He was tried and convicted and fined $300, which is about $8,000 today. He served no prison time. He did resign from the United States House in July of 1856, but was reelected a month later. But before the new session of Congress began in 1857, Preston Brooks dies of the croup, a massive and dangerous form of bronchitis, on January the 27th, 1857 in Washington, D.C. at the age of 37. His remains were returned for South Carolina for burial. Brooks was married twice. First to Caroline Hawker Means, who died in 1843 along with an infant child, and then to Martha Caroline Means, and they had 3 children. Now, I don't know if his wives were related. They both had the same last name, but I don't know. We never could figure that out. The cane that was used in the attack is now on display in the old State House in Boston. Brooks's cohort in the attack, Lawrence Keyett, was censored by the United States House for his role in planning and participating in the affair. He resigned in protest, but was reelected a month later. In 1858, he attempted to choke fellow Representative Galasha Grow of Pennsylvania for calling him a Negro driver during an argument on the House floor. We think we've got it bad today. I mean, these people. This move caused a move to censor Henry Edmondson also failed. Now, Charles Sumner suffered head trauma and possible spinal cord injuries, which caused chronic debilitating pain for the rest of his life. And he showed strong symptoms of what is now known as post-traumatic stress disorder. He was ridiculed by his enemies, who accused him of cowardice for not resuming his duties. He returned to the Senate in 1857, but was unable to last a day. He was advised to take an extended vacation and travel to Europe again, and found some relief, but was unable to return to his post, stating that he was exhausted. After a 3-year absence, Sumner returned to the Senate in 1859 and was advised by his friends to take a less strident tone as he had previously. But this fell on deaf ears. He lost much support because of his uncompromising attitude. He became a radical Republican, and with the withdrawal of the Southern senators, became chairman of the powerful Committee on Foreign Relations. He met with Lincoln often during the war, and Lincoln described Sumner as my idea of a bishop and consulted him often. Sumner felt that slavery was the sole cause of the Civil War, and even pushed the federal authorities to declare martial law. This, and more radical views, caused many to feel Sumner was a candidate for the insane asylum. Sumner did become embroiled in the RMS Trent affair, the capture and removal of 2 Confederate diplomats from a British ship. Calls for war began to mount, and Sumner called for the diplomats' release. These actions helped Sumner's reputation. He pushed for the United States to recognize Haiti. Now, after the Civil War, Sumner pushed for African American civil rights, including the right to vote. He was largely ignored during the debates on the 13th Amendment. He also pushed for the elimination of any reference to race in regards to naturalization laws. Sumner was also a great supporter of the annexation of Alaska, and although well thought of in the United Kingdom, he asserted that Britain should pay damages for that country's involvement with the Confederate raiders during the Civil War, which did not help him with the incoming Grant administration. In 1870, President Grant wanted to annex the Dominican Republic, which Sumner opposed. And mainly through Sumner's efforts, Grant's treaty of annexation failed. And this, of course, did not help relations between Grant and Sumner. Although at first friends, Sumner and Grant now became bitter enemies. This rift eventually led to Sumner's ouster as chairman of the Committee of Foreign Relations. Sumner's health is also beginning to fail. His radical views are also falling out of favor. And Charles Sumner dies of a heart attack on March the 11th, 1874 at his home in Washington, D.C. at the age of 63. He lay in state in the United States Capitol, only the second U.S. senator so honored. Who was first?
Henry Clay.
Henry Clay. So, and he is buried in Cambridge, Massachusetts. Pallbearers included Henry Wadsworth Longfellow, Oliver Wendell Holmes, and Ralph Waldo Emerson. Sumner was a strong member of the Episcopal Church. Now, Sumner was a bachelor most of his life. He did marry Alice Hooper in 1866, but their marriage wasn't very happy. Sumner's enemies used his marital woes. Alice was often seen in public with Prussian diplomat Frederick von Holstein, and Sumner was labeled the Great Antipatsy. Sumner was granted divorce on grounds of desertion in 1873. And here ends our story time. And if you have any questions, we'll try to answer them for you. Okay, let's go on.
Well, all right, a question. Have historians investigated, or has any thought been given, was Sumner deliberately trying to provoke an attack? Similar to why John...
I don't think so.
Okay.
Personally, from my I don't think anybody thought it would go this far. But when you're dealing with the chivalry of the South, whether that exists or not, he pushed it too far. He pushed too many buttons. I think the way it kind of came about. Does that make sense? I mean, you've read on this some, and we talked before.
Yeah.
And when it started getting personal, that's when it started getting a little bit. I mean, they holler at each other up there today, but I don't think they do anything personal like they did back then.
Except for Trump's tweets.
Well, you know, when Trump
They're pretty personal.
made that, well, he's not Congress though.
True.
Well, there's the thought it's the floor, more or less, speech on the floor of Congress is kind of like privileged speech.
Right.
You can say anything you want to. And from what you've just said, apparently Sumner thought he could say anything he wanted to without consequences. Well, he learned.
There's consequences.
Yes.
I've always been curious, though, about the fact that it wasn't the senator who came after him, which was the man he maligned. It was the second cousin who's in the House who wasn't even present when the speech was given. He had to read it.
There's a whole lot more going on, but you're right. But it's just boiling.
Oh, yeah.
And I don't, as a cause of the Civil War, by itself, no. But did they throw gas on the keg before they lit it? Oh yeah, especially afterwards when it got the country so riled up. And it's like WrestleMania a little bit, you know.
Well, you take Bleeding Kansas, you take that event, the caning of Sumner, and then you take the raid on Harper's Ferry by John Brown, and you've got three perfect.
You're just throwing more on there.
Yeah.
Just throwing, and you know, Sumner being so venomous in his attacks was.
Well, I forgot Dred Scott.
Well, that plays all in.
Yeah, because they're all happening within a series of about 4 years. All these events
What
took
in
place.
the world is Franklin Pierce and James Buchanan going to do? Honestly,
Yeah.
what can they do? On our Facebook page, we put a quiz up every day. The quiz I put up the other day is Stephen Douglas beats Lincoln. What happens? Well, I had a fella, he wrote a very excellent argument and things, and what happened could have happened. Because what happens to Stephen Douglas?
He died.
He dies in July. So
Right.
then you've got this other fellas. Of course, I wondered, now, is he going to die or not? And it gets all. But for this fellow who wrote in, he said, the war doesn't happen. That they send troops to South Carolina early, and kind of everything gets calmed down. Because when Lincoln's elected, that's when it really starts getting hot. So it's a neat 4 years. I wouldn't want to live during it. No. At all. So.
Well, it's a time when the largest portion of our population died. And that's just not the
One way or
soldiers.
the other.
That's not just the soldiers, it's civilians too. mostly in the South, but
Medical was terrible.
Well, disease is rampant. Uh-oh, yes, sir.
And you had the idea, the fear that the South was having a pro-slavery conspiracy. And Lincoln probably believed in that there probably was a conspiracy going on. That's why the Dred Scott decision. And so I guess this may figure into that. I've never thought of it that way, but I guess you could put it in that category.
sure.
Well, I don't think people in Nebraska, and I am not a proponent of slavery in any way, shape, or form. Don't leave here going, he might as well be wearing a white robe. But what would people in Nebraska think if the federal government told them you can't use corn combines anymore? It's kind of the same mentality. You know, they're wanting to get rid of their labor force. I learned at a Civil War Trust Conference one time, heard a fellow say this, and one big thing the Confederacy did, you can't eat cotton.
Right.
And that's what got me in trouble, even beforehand. We have a World War II roundtable there in Richmond also, and I've made the comment that the Confederacy was a lot like the Japanese Empire in World War II. The longer the war went, the less likely they're going to win.
Oh, yeah.
So, don't throw anything at me, you pro-Confederate people, but
Well, but the other side of it that occurred to me was that nobody ever seems to really, or maybe I've just missed it, get into the whole conversation of when they put the Constitution together, the South wanted the maximum amount of representation.
that's right,
So what did they do? They came up with the 3/5 rule.
that's right.
Okay, now, the 3/5 rule tells you that these African Americans are 3/5 human. And now we get to the time when they want to bring the slaves into these territories, and now suddenly they're just property. And it's like, wait a minute, you can't have it both ways.
Can't have both ways.
Yeah.
But I've never heard the argument was ever put out that way. Like, how can you ask to have them judged as property when you wanted them judged as people for sake of representation in the Constitution?
When you get to your great reward, talk to Roger Taney about it. We'll see what he says. Also, most of you all are older than I am. That doesn't mean that you're bad people, you're just older than I am. But until the past couple or three United States president's election, you could not win unless you won the South. And you didn't have Mississippi vote for one candidate and Alabama voting for another. It didn't happen.
It was a block.
It was a block. It comes from there, all this. I think that's when it all gets started, because they're beat up on.
But that's why I always thought it was ironic what President Lyndon Johnson said when they signed the Civil Rights Act. He said, "I have lost the South for the Democrats for the next generation." Little did he know it's now through 2.
Yes, sir.
But obviously, if Preston Brooks had not died, we can imagine he would have been a hot secessionist, perhaps even dying on the battlefield too, raising a regiment, being a Mexican War veteran.
I don't know when he was shot, though. I don't know how physically he could have gone on the battlefield. I didn't find he got shot in a duel. But I think he very easily could have been a wheel in the Confederate government. Easily. And if you want to read about another interesting character, read about Alexander Stephens.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
He's not that tall,
Yeah.
little teeny weeny guy.
Well, they keep quoting his cornerstone speech about saying slavery and racial inferiority are the cornerstone of the Southern Confederacy, but Stephens himself said that was just an impulsive speech on my part. That was not my considered thought. I was just making an impulsive speech, and now people
Did
think...
everybody here see the movie Lincoln?
Yes.
Everybody? Look at the fellow who played Alexander Stephens in that movie, and look at the real one. It is just about as spooky as you can get. And so, all right, part 2 of tonight. And Mr. Hoffman doesn't know about this part. Now we're going to see how smart you all are. Many of you all know I'm the battlefield superintendent there at the Battle of Richmond, Kentucky. Let the pigeons fly, let the trumpets blare. Who is the overall Union commander at the Battle of Richmond, Kentucky? Dr. Ramage, you can't answer this. This is not. Who?
No, Bull Nelson.
Richmond,
Bull
Kentucky.
Nelson, I'm
Bull
sorry.
Nelson.
Bull Nelson. There is no Battle of Richmond, Virginia.
Right.
Technically, there are battles all around it, but there's no actual. It's not named William Bull Nelson. And he's about 300 pounds, 6'4", the most elegant and original swearer in the entire Union Army. Well, if you have been down to the battlefield of Richmond, there at the Visitor Center, we have done brochures on different characters who fought there. Because there's more to these people than just 2 or 3 days out of their life fighting the Battle of Richmond. And we were thinking, I don't believe in change. I believe in improvement. Change is a two-way street. We want to start doing better. So we were looking at these brochures and we thought, how can we make these better than what they are? And we thought, you know, what is unique to all of it? We all have it, but what is unique to all of us? Our signature. So I thought, you know, if we can get these signatures and find them on the internet and add them to the brochure, that would help visitors make these fellows more real. Okay? Well, who are you going to start off with? Well, we'll just start off with Bull Nelson. So, have any of you all goofed off at work? Last Christmas, I was goofing off at work. Now, Dr. Ramage, you wouldn't. Don't tell anybody I did that. And I had a couple of my volunteers there, and we typed in the computer, William Bull Nelson signature. And in a moment, 3 billion hits came up or something. But one of them, not too far down, said Lincoln's signature on Nelson Commission. That's exactly how I looked when I saw it. What is this? So we clicked on it, and it was Nate Sanders Auction Company from Los Angeles, California. And it was Bull Nelson's commission as a major general signed by Lincoln and Stanton in an auction. So what did I do? Got on the handy dandy phone. We didn't want them to know who we were. And the auction was in March of 2015. So we called them, we asked about it, and it said that it did not meet reserve and did not have any bids. And the reserve price, I don't mind telling you all, was $5,500. And I said, is this item still available? And if it is, I will send you a check today for it. I mean, this is unheard of for a battlefield to have something like this. How many battles does Bull Nelson fight in as a major general? 1. At Richmond. Well, so the auction house got hold of the seller, and we negotiated back and forth and cussed a lot and all that. Well, we finally reached a price. And we sent the money out. And of course, anytime you send money out to somebody you don't know, they're a little concerned, of course. We felt pretty good about the auction house because this company sold one of 5 signatures known to exist of Galileo for $2.5 million. We were pretty sure they were reputable. Sent our money, no commission. No commission. No commission. Well, then the phone rings. And it's the auction house. The seller had pulled out. Well, and they sent us our money back. So that's even better. Are you disappointed? Sure, you're disappointed. But it's just one of those things, and we kind of go about our merry way. Well, about 6 weeks later, the phone rings. This is Nate Sanders Auction Company. Are you still interested in the Bull Nelson Commission? Oh yeah, oh yeah. And they said, you know, they were going to sue the seller because they had a contract to sell. And the auction company had done a lot of work and got nothing out of it. So we agreed to a price, and I don't mind telling you all, it came up to be $12,500. When we told them, this is it. There is no more. If they back out, we are done. And about 4 or 5 days later, we sent the money out there. And first off, where in the world were we going to get the money? Well, we finally figured it out and got it done. 3 or 4 or 5 days later, UPS drives up, and I just happen to have it with me here this evening,
Ooh.
so you all can see it. Because if I don't bring it up here, I'll have to take Hoffman back with me and have him for Christmas, and I don't want to. I talked to a lot of other battlefields, and they're all going, the first thing, you got what? Never heard of such a thing. Now, they found John Bell Hood stuff. I don't know if you knew about that up in New Jersey here 3 years ago. And they got copies of it. They didn't get the original. We got the real thing. So, is there any other announcements, Mr. Hoffman, before they kind of break up and they can come up and look at this piece? And they can also lead the chat.
I meant to mention about the museum too, your museum, about people coming down and visiting.
Yeah, come down. We're just 3.5 miles off the interstate. If you're going to Florida or Georgia or...
I have to stay away from the university because that brings back old bad memories.
It's called post-traumatic stress disorder. And for you, one of the best treatments is Pabst.
Oh, yeah, yeah, oh, yeah.
So, but anyway, I brought it with me. Thought y'all get a kick out of it. It's just something that you don't see very often.
I did, I know for sure.
I took it to a meeting of the Civil War sites in Perryville. People looked at it and said, "Oh, only house we got's a Capitol." So, but you're more than welcome to come up and look at it. Yes, sir.
Okay, if I can be forgiven for bringing up controversy tonight, has anyone tried to tell you guys in Richmond, no more Confederate flags, no more Confederate monuments? No one's done that?
No.
Well, I'm glad you were spared.
We're all friends here. I've had more complaints that we don't show enough Confederate flags. Now, in the visitor center down there, we have 13. But we're in the education business. When people think Confederate flag, they think this one. There's a whole lot more of them.
Yeah, 3 stripes.
I mean, the first national at Richmond, definitely. Leonidas Polk Corps flag, definitely. Hardy Claiborne flag, definitely. Earl Van Dorn Army of the West, possibly. You know which one that is.
I should.
Everybody know about Earl Van Dorn?
Yes.
Yeah.
The
yes.
terror of ugly husbands.
Yeah.
His army had a flag, and it was bright red with yellow stars and a gold moon.
That's cool.
And it's really a cool looking flag. And we've got it up down there. People come in, well, that's some sort of ISIS flag, though. You know, the Orphan Brigade had their own flags. The Missouri boys at Vicksburg, Union boys were ordered to attack the Missouri position. They said, we're not going up there. They saw that flag with that white cross. There's so many different ones. But we haven't had any problem with it at all. Like I said, other than we've had some, anybody here in the Sons of Confederate Veterans, some of those fellows are rabid.
Yeah.
And they don't understand that it's more than, you will never know who Muhammad Ali is if you don't have George Foreman. You got to have both sides. Anybody ever seen the Florida secession flag? Look up a Florida secession flag. It's 13 blue, red, and white stripes with one big white star. It's just like an American flag. So,
It looks like the flag of Liberia.
yeah, a lot like it. So, well, like I said, we're in the education business, and we try to help people understand. And a lot of them will say, "I never knew there was that many flags."
But basically, you're talking about a museum and a battlefield. I think the real problem comes when you put it out in front of the courthouse or on a boulevard, where it's kind of like a place of honor.
The problem that you have with the classic Confederate battle flag is it has transcended the Civil War. It is now the symbol of a rebel. I'm 18 years old, I'm rebelling against my parents, I'm rebelling against church, I'm rebelling against school. That's my flag. Well, I hate to tell you, never was meant to do that. It's been hijacked by groups that, how in the world can the SCV and the neo-Nazis see anything eye to eye? But they march together. That doesn't make any sense. I'm not saying just SCV.
Well, they're both white supremacists.
So, but, you know, there's two kinds of Civil War statutes. You have site-specific ones, and ones that aren't site-specific. And in Lexington, they're having a big to-do over the two statues there on the old courthouse square. Don't let them think you think that it's the courthouse, because it's not. It's the old courthouse. I'm not a John Hunt Morgan fan, personally. Well, he's there. He wasn't in Lexington a whole lot. I don't know about that one, but John C. Breckinridge, probably the most important forgotten Kentuckian. And he's there in civilian clothes. And it's a tough one, isn't it, Dr. Ramage?
Yeah, it is.
It's almost a case by case. The monument there to the Confederates in Louisville. Everybody got all up in the air about it, and they did move it to Bardstown, and that's all nice, and everybody feels better. Problem with the one in Louisville, it was in a roundabout that you had to cross 3 lanes of traffic. That's a traffic hazard. That's a health hazard. So that's where it might have needed to, and it wasn't site-specific. And it was put up in the 1890s. It was in Egypt. And see, through toward. It's a tough one. You all know the answer. Tell us. We'd sure like to know.
Well, it's the Organization for the Civil War Trust. They sent out a questionnaire and requested that people who donate to them answer a series of questions. Now, I haven't seen the results of the survey, but I assume that everybody, including myself, sent back our responses. And a lot of it had to do with, is there a proper place, is there an improper place to do it, to exhibit these things? And it looks like they came down on the side of, there's a place where they are, can be used for, telling a story, and then there's just paying them homage. And they seem to be leaning toward not having anything to do with the paying them homage, but they wanted nothing to do with paying to move them or tear them down or anything. That's going to be left to somebody else if that's what they decide to do. It has to be the local.
Some of these union guys are just as, Sherman hated blacks. Despised.
Then why did he give them 40 acres and a mule?
Well, politics.
He wanted to, but he didn't.
When he's going through Georgia, the blacks are leaving plantations like crazy. And when they get to a river, he put a pontoon bridge down. He'd take his army across, split up, and leave blacks on the other side.
He left them to the fate of the Southern Cavalry following.
Have at it.
So did Jefferson Davis, the Union guy that shot Bull Nelson.
Jefferson C. Davis. It's not so pretty.
But the big thing that separates them, though, is who did commit treason and who didn't. And the Constitution is very specific. If you lead an insurrectionist movement and you kill American military, the people we honor today, these are their forefathers. And if you do that, do you really deserve to be honored with a statue?
Don't know. Because they were accepted back as the countrymen. It gets tough done. It isn't blue and gray.
Well, they didn't get accepted back, they got pardoned.
If Lincoln wanted them brought back, and most of them were. Look how many served in the House and the Senate after it's over.
Yeah, that was a huge mistake.
Well, Grant had one of the Confederate generals in his cabinet, and he had, who was that? One of them.
Well, it was Hayes. It was Hayes as part of David M. Key as Postmaster General. As part of the Compromise of 1877.
And he went up to World War II.
Learned that from you.
I know my dad was in World War II. I think your dad was in the Navy in World War II, I couldn't tell me. But I know my dad said, when he told him he was from Kentucky, they said, well, we see you're wearing shoes. The second question we have for you is, whose side are you on, Mason or Dixon? I mean, the people...
I think of all of the states that existed at the time of the Civil War, Kentucky was the most mistreated of all of them. course, part of it was our own undoing, trying to, well, we kind of want to have our cake and eat it too here.
Well, Burbage.
And Burbage had a lot to
Burbage,
do.
Oh, yeah.
Burbage pushed him to the southern cause.
Thinker, yeah.
Come to Richmond,
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
so have a big time.
Good talk.
Appreciate you all coming to see us. Come over here and look at this. Uh-oh.
The black axis said they
I appreciate that. No, I might get Dr. Ramage to sign it. Somebody knows what they're doing.
There you go.
They don't really see